Well, welcome to the class. This evening we are going to learn about King Jeroboam.
Betul me bedok we ko ga dele tamalo tanya ne pekemalu ba weda sopa yura bagimo.
So this is from 1 Kings chapter 12.
Pemalu weda le te sopa sedo siki.
So last time when I gave a lesson on the Old Testament history, we spoke about King Rehoboam.
Le maka blo le pemalu ba weda le lisosia la li tu tasi so teso ne na pemalu weda sopa rekhabagi.
And we learned about Rehoboam's foolishness.
Pemalu ba weda le sopa rekhabata hago atatu tho.
So Rehoboam was the son of Solomon.
Sopa rekhabani me weda so shulumo pokwa.
So when David died, then Solomon became king.
Pele sopa da withi weda blo ne so shulumo kera weda sopa.
And when Solomon died, his son Rehoboam became king.
Pele social motiwe wila kiniapo kwa soroha bakera wela sopanilo.
And you remember that he was very harsh to the people.
Thino to a weda mi weda pala suoku weda lupo gomeogonilo.
Remember the old wise counselors told Rehoboam to be milder than his father Solomon had been?
Thino to a le puaku bakuthile pathukitha pala hiota kuthila githir pane. Si ba ola weda kabamieda pala akapueda le puatipo kapuago le akapudoni weda de apa social morke.
The old wise counselors had said that if you serve your people, they will love you and serve you.
La nyapa thirpane atasi ba ole nemma weda no pagwa matani na we thirpane ke enanilo.
But the young men who had grown up with Rehoboam said, No, 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 you be harsh to them.
Pasana ke na pale atasa thirpala do to hud buko de sorry roha bane tasi ba madine ke na no basu no ba ma na do ne din ba maurki.
You be harsher to them than your father Solomon was.
No ba sudo ne ba ma na do ne le no pa so shulumo ma ba pa komithirpane.
So the people of the northern 10 tribes, the northern kingdom, they rebelled against Rehoboam.
Pene na pwago mula weda lukili so pana weda puro toda weda so rukhabanilo.
Judah and Benjamin remained faithful to Rehoboam.
Memele yuda da biya miadu ne awethirpa o weda lutathato do sopa rukhabanilo.
So the 10 northern tribes did not recognize the kingship of Rehoboam.
Memele pwadu dishino la weda lukili so rukpane awethirpane de papa no weda so rukhaba abomuba.
And a man called Jeroboam, who was a very powerful man in the 10 tribes, he became king.
Memele pwa la meweda yuraba la meweda pwa la oda tasuta mapado organiketa weda sopa le pwa adu desi adu aklani lo.
Jeroboam, the son of Nebat.
We so yuraba no la meweda soniba apokwa.
So Jeroboam became king of the 10 tribes, but he was scared that if the people continued to go to Jerusalem to worship the Lord, that they would go back to recognizing Rehoboam as king.
So yuraba weda keta weda pwa sopa le pwa adu desi apoko pasana kene na weda pli weda le pwa go mutu no ne ke daki weda le Yuda le Jerusalem le ke butabara ka saywa le tali le Jerusalem.
So 3 times per year, all of Israel was to appear at the temple in Jerusalem.
Tini ne theblo pwa mule Israel dor ko nya na wetir paket balle lo plato ata le butabara ka saywa le tali he pole Jerusalem no.
But Jeroboam did not want the people to go to Jerusalem.
Asado so yira ba weda te edo weda le pwa mule weda le Jerusalem ba.
So he thought, okay, what am I going to do to prevent the people from serving the Lord in Jerusalem?
Awa sera na jiko ba madile na de ta weda le jiko tro weda pwa mule pala ake le butoba to ma ka saywa tali Jerusalem ne jiko ba madile.
He thought, oh, I know what I will do. I will put two golden calves, one in Dan and one in Bethel.
Awe siwe da no yithi nyali ta le yiga ba mali no. Kone yiga pa lo da klotu du no le da du da le bethe la du.
Dan and Bethel were the north of the 10 tribes and the south of the 10 tribes.
Le awe da de bethe la ni no awe da le awe no le awe da le pwa du de si no le a kli so de pa a do le awe de kane a kli ti de pa se ko.
He said, you don't need to go to Jerusalem to worship the Lord. You can serve him in Dan or in Bethel.
Awe siwe da le ne to lo le da le Jerusalem le ne ka ba le buto ba ka se ba ni ba mi me ka ne le ba ka se ba le da le bethe la siwe da ni lo.
You don't need to go to the temple in Jerusalem to worship the Lord.
Nto lo le da le wi Jerusalem le da le hi pu le ne ka ba buto ba ka se ba ni ba.
You can worship him at the golden calves.
Ne ba to ka se ba pe le o klo tu wa lo ni siwe da ni lo.
Now, this was man-made religion.
Da we de na mi wa da pa ko pa ta du o to da ta buta ba ni lo.
It was sin against the first and the second commandments.
Ni na ta de ba to da we da ta ma lo te bo da ta ma lo ki bo ni lo.
The first commandment said they were not allowed to worship any other God but the one true God.
Da malo ter bone siwe da len to ba buto ba to da yala gu ga no to ga ba no the da le yala mi to ga ulen ko ba buto ba to.
And the second commandment says that you must worship the Lord according to his word.
Da malo ki bo bone siwe da no ba buto ba to ka sa ywa di ak lu ga tha so.
The Lord had said that they were to worship him in Jerusalem.
Ka sa ywa ak lu tha siwe da la we the ba buto ba to le Jerusalem ni lo.
So when he created this calf worship, then that was man-made religion.
Pasado pele ta du to we da klo tu tir pa ne mi we da pa ko pa ta du to we da ta buta ba ni lo.
Please take a look at the second commandment in Exodus 20, verses 4 to 6.
No, ka sa ywa ta malo no la mi we da ki moshe asado ki si asabo luida tuluhu. Siwa di ite ta wata pola nungorge. Ta ola muko ta mege, ta ola okola mege, ta ola tikla la hokwa pola mege, te ake gola nungo nod mirge, ba orge, ma darge, age di ya da yuanage sa yemeke sa la ta kita, la du othko pa ata de ba la por pa tu lola pata hiya, ta so lola lui so, lola amablu ma po pa gto pa, pala a eya dotoni ta malur panilo.
So the Lord was very clear in the second commandment that they were not to worship graven, carved images.
Kasaywa we da te pya she na le awe tir pa ta ba bu tha ba tho kasaywa le da ta le ne te ago na mege na le ne kama sopla o mege na ta ma lo ki bone na ta te ba she ni lo.
So this was directly against a very clear commandment of the Lord.
Ta we da mi we da ta le na ta thot da kasaywa lo le kasaywa hiwa da ta ma lo awe tir pa tu dog na ba ni lo.
Now, what does worshiping at a graven image, a calf carved out of gold, remind you of?
Le mi wa da klotu go no le ta supply da klotu go ni no ta we ni disi no thona le tam ni le.
Anyone have an idea what that can remind us of?
Ti no tho ga no le klotu go ni disi no tho pa le pele tam ni le.
Worshiping a golden calf?
Le ta ba tho we da klotu go.
Malo ba gulia de sabi na me pele tagale pla ta tita ko ta por about again ni lo pele.
We have learned that but we forgot what happened.
Okay. Jamie,
Le
do you remember that
Say where to say something.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead, please.
wa kse Samsela hige da mana ba shile kasa da kula ke la ba isla bo de ba ro ke klom ni na da kan ne me wana da.
Yeah. So when Moses went to the mountain to receive the Ten Commandments, and while he was away, he came down and the people were worshiping the golden calf.
That's right. That's exactly what Jeroboam was doing. He was doing exactly the sin that Aaron did.
Ni we da no ta te mi ko le no we ta de ba le so aharo ma we mo.
Let's go to Exodus 32, verse 4, please.
Le le ki mo she sa do ta se ki sa bo ki si lui. Do awe da hi ni o la su do te ta le no kwe do du ke to o le go pi tho pu a tha du lo. Do we te pa ni si we da iswe la awe I min ka sala du he to na le ko e kup tu apu lo.
Exactly right. Aaron carved a golden calf, and he said to the people of Israel, "This is your God who brought you up out of Egypt."
So aharo we da so pla we da klo tu du ago pla we da si ba we da pa go mene a I me we da ni yu ala du ha to kwina le ko e kup tu apu mo.
And that's exactly what King Jeroboam said.
Mi we da ta we no the mi ko no the ka ko do ta le so pa yura ba si we da pe ni.
He said, "These are your gods who brought you up out of the land of Egypt."
Awe si we da no pa ta tit pe mi we da na yu a la du ha to kwina le ko e kup tu apu.
So this is several hundred years later, but it was exactly the same sin.
Mi we da le suga ani suga ya we lucky ba ne na ta de ba ni mi we da ta de ba ka ko.
Now, when I was reflecting on this earlier today, I was thinking, how could they have thought that this was going to end well?
Na pele yu sok mo kwa ti we da ti ni ya ini no. Yu sok mo to we da ni no. Awa thir pa chok mo da ta we ni no. A ka te ke le ta ge ba ba ne chok mo da di le.
It didn't end well for the children of Israel on the mountain.
A ka te le ta ge ba ba da pa isu la po le ka se si na do ko ni ba.
Remember, Moses ground up the golden calf, put it in a stream, and he made the people drink it.
Ti no to a so mo shia we da ma lo black we da. A klo tu du nya go ba du pa lo da ko mu le ti klo bu ba du me da pa ko mi o we da ti ni.
I was wondering to myself, in the time of Jeroboam, why did they commit exactly the same sin?
Eso como no, pele so pa yura ba so no. Pam ni ko le na we te pa ma we da ta de ba mi ko inile.
It must be that the people were not being taught.
Ke mi we da le pa ko mi ne te ba ta so lo ba mo.
They were not being instructed.
A we te pa ne ta to so lo tu su ne kle ba.
They had forgotten.
A we te sa pi na ku we da.
If the prophets and the priests had been faithfully teaching, they would have kept this memory alive.
Na a we wa lu ta te pa we te pa me so lo we da pa ko mi ne na. A we te pa ne na ke si no ta ke we da ta si no we la mu mo.
But the memory died, and Jeroboam committed exactly the same sin that Aaron had committed.
Basara tati na ta bekani na ti kueda we ba ne so yura ba ne weda ma weda ta de ba mi ho ni lo.
It was an abomination to the Lord.
Ta mi weda no ta lo ta ba o weda le sa ya me nya ni lo.
Not just a little sin that they committed,
Te me na le ta de ba te se pola ma we ne ba.
but it was a rejection of true worship.
Basara mi weda ta me kueda ta bu to ba to la mi to ni lo.
And it was an attempt to control God.
No mi weda no ta gu klese no ta le so no ta gu klese weda la we ti pa ke pe weda yu amo.
Also, King Jeroboam changed the whole structure of the regular festivals.
Pane sapa yura bana weda le loko weda le mu tirpa ta oeda bu tirpa mu tirpa ata pitama at akluk lekele kesi.
The Lord had said that there were certain times that all the people of Israel, at least the adult men 20 years and older, they had to appear at Jerusalem.
No mi wa dalu tasak dalu lo so no lo sa da pa pokwa le ano do tir pa na ado tu ko tir pa ke he ba lo pla ra ta le we Jerusalem.
For 3 great festivals.
Le awe tambu no pa do the blom.
But Jeroboam
Kesaywa tama lo le tama bu tir pa ni kele ke se ba we da du to we da ta obu ta omula thoni lo.
he also expelled all the Levitical priests.
Awe no ke we da le not a we da awe pa luta no la me we da le so lewi no pa lewi pu pa luta tir pa ni kele ke se.
Remember that the Lord had taken the tribe of Levi and had made them to be priests and to serve at the temple.
Tinatoa le kesaywa du ke we da pa lewi du no. Hini we da pa lewi du lo ku to we da pa lewi du lo so la we tir pa ke me da pa luta tir pa da we tir ma da le hini lo.
So King Jeroboam got rid of all the Levites, Levitical priests in the northern 10 tribes.
Pasana ke so pa yira bane we da mahago ku we da no kwa luta le ame da pa lewi po tir pa no le kli so no awe abomu le pa do de sia klane.
And he appointed new priests and servants to serve at the golden calves.
Na we no palo ke we da pa luta le agu gala te me we da pa lewi do ba le awe tir pa kama we da le lo tu tir pa agone.
Now, Jeroboam's sin became a pattern in Israel.
Awe so yira ba ta de ba ni no mi we da no ta le allo che we da no le Israel ni no.
Throughout 1st and 2nd Kings, there's one repeated phrase that you read time and again.
No le pa pa da le lita sa pa ki sa pa pu ne no pa ti we da le ta ye to ge da so pa yira ba ata de ba ni no de lo ni no.
It says about king after king, and we're going to look at a few examples. King after king did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat.
Pa kwa we da no le so pa tega we la ki no we ti pa no to kha we da athala ta de ba no le ami we da so yira ba ta de ba no so yira ba ta de ba la mi we da so ni ba pu kwa ni no.
King after king, it said that he walked in the ways of the sin which Jeroboam made the people commit.
No le so pa tega we la ki ni no ta si da ki we da le we ti pa ni no mi we da so pa ti pa le amata de ba le so yira ba mati ta de ba ni no.
Now, a lot of people go down in history for one thing or another.
Pa le ta si so te so pu no le lo we da le ta te gir ka me bre mi la gar ka.
Some are evil and some are heroes.
Pa to no mi we da le pa le thought to no mi we da le pa du pa ko.
You can think of Adolf Hitler, who had gone down in history as murdering 6 million Jews.
Ne ti no ta ki we da no le Adolf Hitler no we da le lo ki we da le ta si so te so ata ko no pu la mi we da pa la ma ti we da pa yuda po no we ku ko kwe mo.
So he went down in history as being a very evil man.
We da le ta si so te so pu ni mi da le pa thorga.
There are also men and women who went down in history as being, call them heroes.
No le ta si so te so pu pa we da pa mi pa kwa to no ni mi we da pa le pa du pa ko.
You can think of Churchill, who was so instrumental in fighting against Adolf Hitler.
No cho mo ta le we General Churchill no aweda mi pwala au weda dota thita baduma no le aweda du toda weda Adolf Hitler mo.
And he helped Europe, and the UK, and the USA, and Canada to win the Second World War.
Aweda mase weda ko Europa dot benya USA UK de Canada la ka manne weda ta du kiblot bloni la.
He has a very good, maybe not perfect, but a good reputation.
Awed pemete na weda te me pwale pwa pweba pasana ke na weda dota military.
But Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, has a bad reputation.
Basado no so yira ba la me weda so ni ba pukwa weda la mi eartha erni lo.
Let's take a look at just a few of the examples. 1 Kings 15:25 to 26.
Kwa weda lili teso pa sodo de siya sabo kisi ya tele kisi hu. Do yuda so pa asa ani pueto kisi dinine so yira ba apukwa so nada ketho so pa le iswela apoko do ke so pa le iswela apoko kini lo. Do mata ele yu amenya do leta le apak le pu do le atade ba pu la duma iswela le tade ba lo.
Okay, so Nadab was Jeroboam's son, and he walked in the ways of his father Jeroboam.
No so nada no mi weda so pa yira ba pokwa aweda leta le tade ba kle de sa pa tu ni lo.
And then the next king is Baasha in 1 Kings 15:33 to 34.
So pa le kit kodorgane no. Te so pa se do de si ya sabota si lui ne. Dole yuda so pa asa ani pueto theni dinine so akhia apokwa so basha keto so pale iswela kela apoko le ti resa apu kisi luini lo do mata ele yua menya do leta le so yaraba kle do le tadeba pula du mai iswela le tadeba lo.
So again, next king walked in the ways of Jeroboam the son of Nebat.
No petigodoli no awe so pala thorga no awe da leta le tadeba akle le so yuraba le so na ba apokwa akle ni lo.
Okay, the next king, 1 Kings 16:25 to 26.
No so pa thorga ka no le lite so pa so do si hu asapo kisi etele kisi hu ne si wedi do so rima ta ele yuame do mata ene mata ene kia le a utile a menyar kilo do lewele so na ba pokwa so yara ba kle do bunya do la ta de ba pula duma iswela le ta de ba la toge yua iswela kasa atha tole attack log lolo.
Okay, then the next king was, and that's the last one we'll look at, but it's Ahab, son of Omri, 1 Kings 16:30 to 31.
Kwa weda le no so aha no so pa aha la mi weda so omri no awe no de so pa so do si hu so bo tesi de do so u so uri apukwa so aha mata ele yua menya na ne kiye pala uela menya keler kilo do tamata le apa aleta le so na ba pukwa so yara bata de ba pule ta pui do hinyama le pwasi do po asopa bala po muno isabela do lewe do mabala ata do buto bato olo.
Okay, so again, you see with Ahab walked in the ways of Jeroboam.
No nam tigdali no le so pa aha awe da lewe da le so awe yiraba akleni lo.
But Ahab went even farther.
Basado no so pa aha na awe da le nya digdo.
Ahab married Jezebel, a Canaanite princess.
So pa aha na awe da plota da no isibela la mewe da no pa me po le kenahamo.
Jezebel and Ahab brought Baal worship into Israel.
Le so akha do na Isabella na weda he so nu weda awe balata bale Israel punilo.
These other kings, it was wrong what they were doing. They said that they wanted to worship the Lord, but they wanted to worship him by way of the golden calves.
Le so pala gu ga thir pani na me weda amakamata awe thir pa edoba weda kasaywa basana kino awe thi edoba kasaywa ni corporal clothu ne.
But Ahab and Jezebel went farther. They wanted to get rid of the worship of the Lord.
Me le so akha do na Isabella ni na we thir pa le weda sunya di no. Nado di aweda edoma roku weda tabutoba to kasaywa no
And
baba weda bala.
they wanted to totally replace true worship with Baal worship.
Awe thir pa no ma edoma roku weda tabutoba to kasaywa la meto ni lele sisi bane no tabutoba to la meto aloni awe thir pa edoma pweki weda le bala tabamo.
And it didn't end with Ahab. We could look at following kings, and they too walked in the ways of Jeroboam.
No tukuto da pele so akha so ba le so pa le la kini na we thir pa le ta le so yira ba akle ni lo.
So, what is the lesson for us today?
Tamalo le po le tini ai ni mi we da tam ne le.
Well, there's a warning against idolatry,
Mi we da ta hip lo pa le ta ba ta go ta phoni lo.
and idolatry is not only about worshiping physical idols.
No ta bu tha ba ta we da ta go ta phoni na tu mi we da le no na pa lo ta go du le ne me nya no le ne tia ti da ta go tu tu o le ne me ya du ne ba ta ne o ba.
But the first commandment warns us from trusting in anything other than God.
No ta ma lo ter bo ne we da hip lo pa le no ne awe no ne ta mi ge no ne na ni o do ni we da le sa ya me nya mo.
Anything that replaces God's rightful place in our hearts is idolatry.
Ta mi ge le no pa o no le pa sa pu pa do ne de pa we da le sa yu pa do sa yu le pa sa pu ne no mi we da ta go ta pho ni lo.
That can be money. If you trust in, if you make money what you trust in, that can become an idol.
Ta we ne mi we da le no si ne si we da no no min na ni we da no klon si a do ni we da na ni ka sa yu ni no ne si ka ni mi we da ta go ta pho le no ni lo.
Sex can become an idol.
No ke da le mi kwa ta re lo mi lo ni no mi we da ta bu ke we da le ta ba ta go ta pho ni lo.
The Lord calls us to worship him only and to worship him according to his word.
Cứ sai ba na wa du to man lo pa le ko ba bu to ba to te de ga o no la we da te si ba pa le ko ba bu to ba to le di akulu ga ta athoma.
So there's a strong warning to us not to create a man-made religion, but to worship the Lord according to his word.
Na ko ne mi we da ta he plus su le pwe ti pa go le bu tu du o to we da o pa ko po atabu to ba to atabu ta ba ne de mi mi ko ne ko ba na we da ten ne ka sai wa da ga di akulu ga ta to ni lo.
And parents have a great responsibility to teach their children the ways of the Lord.
Mo pa ti pa we da da amo da pa do la ba tu lo da a po ti pa le ka sai wa kle ni lo.
If parents stray away from the Lord, the children will follow.
Mo pa ti pa no me pa ti pa la ha pro ku da le ka sai wa o ni a po ti pa ni po thwe da ki ni lo.
So there's a strong reminder that we as parents must teach our children and grandchildren about the great deeds of God and how to serve the Lord according to his word.
Ko ne me we da le mo pa ti pa do pi pu ti pa na po mo da pa do da le pa ka tu lo da po me po ka pe li me le pa ti pa le ka sai wa da ma pa do do le a we ti pa ka ba ma da ka sai wa da ma ni lo.
none of us is in this alone.
ပဝဲစေတပါနော်တမီလေတာဝဲနေနော်ပကဘာမောထဲကောင်းနေပါ
You know, someone might think, oh, it's so hard to raise my children in the right way.
နော်ပဝဲတာတနော်ပချုံမလေအေးနော်မေဝဲတာတာကောဒိုမလေပကဘာဒူဒိုတော်ဝဲတာဘဖို့လုကလေလာပါနေလော
But we're here to help each other.
ဘာစနာကေပိုဖဲလေပကမဆလိုပတာကဒေကဒေနေလော
And of course, the church is there to help people to raise their children in the right way.
နော်ဒါမေဒါတပကတလောတောက်ဖို့ဝဲတာလေဟိပိုခပိုတေဖာကပကမေကလာကဒူဒိုတော်ဝဲတာဖို့တေဖာလုကလေလာပါနေလော
If the children see their parents worshiping the Lord in church on Sunday, that's really teaching the children what worship is all about.
နော်ပပိုတာဒီပမစ်ဝဲဒါလာမောပဘူတော်ဘာတော်ကဆာယွာလေမေဝင်းနေနော်အခုနေနော်အဝဲဆိုလိုဒါပိုတာတေပါလေနော်မိဝဲဒါတာဒွတ်တဲ့ဒါရစ်ဒွဲဒါလေတဘူတော်ဘာတော်ကဆာယွာနေနော်
So the Lord just calls us to simple faithfulness.
ကဆာယွာကောတော်ပွားနော်လေတယူယူဖို့လေနော်လေပကိုဝဲဒါတော့တာသာတော်မ
Faithfulness and obedience.
လေတာသာတော်တော့လေတဒုကနာ
And another thing that we should see in this lesson is that Jeroboam wanted to be king, but he didn't want anything to do with David's house.
နော်လေတာကတမီလေပတိဝဲဒါလေတမလို့ပွနေနော်ဆောယရာဘန်နော်ဝဲဒါအဒဝဲဒါကေဝဒါဆောပါဘာစနာကေနော်ဝဲဒါတဲ့အဒမတာလေအဝဲဆောဘာခါဒဆောဒါဝီယာဟီနီနော်ဒါတဲ့အဒမဘာခါဆာလူတနော်မီပါ
Jeroboam completely separated him from the kingship of David.
ဆောယရာဘန်နော်ဝဲဒါမာလဖက်ရတလေလေစစ်စစ်နော်လေဒဆောဒါဝီအဟီနော်ဆောဒါဝီအတမီစပါနီနော်
That means he completely separated himself from the greatest king that would come from the house of David, which is Jesus.
အခမယဝလဲအဝဲဒန်မာလဖကွေအသာနော်လေစပပဒိုဒဂလာခဲဝဲဒါလေစောဒဝီအဟီနော်လာမီဝဲဒါစပပဒိုယေရှုနေလော
So it was actually a rejection of Jesus.
အနာမီဝဲဒါတဝဲနေနော်တညုကွေဒါယေရှုခရစ်နေလော
But praise be to God, Jesus came as the faithful king.
မဆာဒဘစီတပရဆိုင်ဝဲလေကဆိုင်ရှုခရစ်ဝဲဒါလာမီဝဲဒါစပလာသတော်ဂန်နေလော
He is seated on the throne of David.
အဝဲဒါစင်နဝဲဒါလေစပဒါဝဲလပ်ဆိုနေလော
He is seated at the right hand of God.
အဝဲဒါစင်နဝဲဒါလေယူအဆွထွဲနေလော
He is King of kings and Lord of lords.
အဝဲဒါမီဝဲဒါစပဖာစပဒေါက်ဆာဖာဆန်နေလော
And so all praise to him alone.
le tala ta po ta si ta pra ka bala khele ne ki